We've all seen the Hollywood depictions of medieval life. Dirty peasants roam the land, a sinister priestess boils a young woman at the stake, and a ruthless king cuts off a peasant's head for stealing a loaf of bread. But are these images true? Well, not exactly. The so-called Dark Ages were actually a lot stranger than what Hollywood would have you believe. In this video, we'll look at several shocking medieval facts that you won't learn anywhere else. Stick around until the end to find out why the medieval period was a much more fascinating time than you thought. Imagine going to court to defend yourself against charges of stealing livestock by eating grass. Public bathhouses were a common feature of medieval towns, and private homes often had bathing facilities. When someone was sentenced to death, their final walk to the execution ground was public. The medieval Catholic Church was deeply involved in the lives of European Christians, shaping their religious beliefs and practices. People gasped in awe and fear. What could this celestial visitor mean for their world? In medieval Europe, when all other means of determining guilt failed, people turned to a dramatic form of legal confrontation, trial by combat. However, it is crucial to remember that medieval people lived in a vastly different time with limited scientific understanding and deeply ingrained religious beliefs. Their world was full of misunderstandings and superstitions, and they acted based on the best knowledge available to them. Practices like bloodletting and animal trials, while seemingly bizarre today, were part of their cultural and religious norms. Moreover, medieval people experienced the same emotions as today's humans, including love, care, and concern for their families and communities. High infant mortality rates, while tragic, were the result of cultural beliefs and lack of medical knowledge, not callousness towards children. Viewing history through a modern ethical lens can obscure the complexities of past societies. Medieval people were not monsters, but products of their time, grappling with a world they didn't fully comprehend. This method, sometimes called judicial dueling, was widely used from the 11th to 13th centuries. While there were instances of brutality and superstition, there was also a complex interplay of religious faith, scientific inquiry, and societal norms that shaped medieval life. Which facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more informative and entertaining content. From the mundane to the macabre, medieval Europe was a crucible where humanity grappled with understanding an unpredictable world. It involved two accused individuals, each supported by a group of up to 100 men. The two groups faced off, and the first side to break ranks and come within striking distance lost. The battle was overseen by a judge, and any attempt to flee or surrender meant defeat. The outcome was seen as a divine verdict. Trial by combat was used in cases involving serious crimes like assault, homicide, rape, and even heresy. However, the practice had significant flaws. It often ended in a draw, providing no resolution. It also left room for manipulation, as wealthier participants could hire professional fighters to represent them. This effectively made trial by combat a contest of financial resources rather than a test of innocence. Regardless of the outcome, this medieval institution offers a glimpse into a time when violence and divine favor were closely intertwined in the pursuit of justice. In the Middle Ages, when scientific understanding was limited, people often interpreted astronomical events like comets, eclipses, and auroras as divine messages. Comets were seen as particularly ominous, believed to foreshadow disasters like floods, famines, pestilence, and even the death of prominent figures. During the reign of Roman Emperor Nero, a comet's appearance coincided with the Great Fire of Rome, so people blamed the comet for the tragedy. Similarly, the Black Death, which ravaged Europe in the 14th century, was linked to a comet that appeared shortly before the plague arrived. Despite having sophisticated astronomical knowledge, medieval scholars intertwined science with superstition. This blend of rational thought and folklore shaped how people viewed celestial events. Not only did it influence their interpretations of comets, but it also affected key historical decisions. For example, when King Hamlet's brother, Claudius, murdered him and took the throne, he cited a comet's appearance as divine approval for his actions. This anecdote is depicted in Shakespeare's play Hamlet. In essence, the medieval worldview saw celestial events not just as natural phenomena, but as divine communications, guiding or warning humanity about impending changes. One of the most controversial aspects of the Church's authority was the system of indulgences. Indulgences were essentially a form of payment for forgiveness. By purchasing an indulgence, a Christian could reduce or even avoid punishment for sins, including venial sins like gossip and mortal sins like murder. The price of an indulgence varied depending on the severity of the sin. The sale of indulgences became a significant source of revenue for the Church, funding grand construction projects like St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. However, this practice led to widespread corruption and became a major catalyst for the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther, the influential reformer, strongly criticized the indulgence system, seeing it as a distortion of Christian teachings. He argued that salvation could not be bought and that the Bible, not the Church, should be the ultimate authority on religious matters. Luther's challenge to the Catholic Church and its practices eventually resulted in the fragmentation of Christianity in Europe, giving rise to various Protestant denominations. The condemned person was paraded through the streets for all to see, adding to the theatricality of the event. At the execution site, a crowd of spectators gathered, eager to witness the spectacle. Vendors sold food and drinks, making the event almost festive in nature. The punishment itself was designed to be theatrical. For instance, the condemned might be forced to stand on a stool while the executioner cut off their head, ensuring the audience could see the event clearly. This macabre entertainment served both as punishment and warning. It was meant to remind onlookers of the consequences of criminal behavior. In essence, executions in the Middle Ages were not just about punishment. They were a form of public education, reinforcing societal norms and deterring potential wrongdoers. Most people bathed at least once a week, and wealthy individuals could afford private baths daily. Furthermore, soap-making was a cottage industry across Europe, with many families producing their own soap for cleaning purposes. The stereotype of filthy medieval Europeans is mainly a misconception based on the period following the Black Death. After this devastating outbreak, people feared that water and disease were linked, leading to a decline in bathing. This fear continued for several centuries, causing a lingering effect on hygiene habits. However, attributing this post-plague decline to the entire medieval period is inaccurate. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Well, it wouldn't have been unthinkable in the Middle Ages. Medieval society believed animals with souls could sin and be held accountable for their actions. As a result, animals were put on trial in courts of law. The proceedings were surprisingly formal. The accused animal was brought before the judge, usually on a leash or in a cage. It had the right to legal representation and could confess or recant its alleged crime. Witnesses testified against it, and the animal could appeal its sentence. Some animals, like dogs, were put to death for crimes such as chasing or biting people. Others, such as cattle or sheep, were fined or banned from certain areas if they damaged crops or property. This may sound like a medieval joke, but records indicate that hundreds of animals were formally prosecuted during the Middle Ages. These prosecutions demonstrate the intertwining of religion and law in medieval culture, where animals were believed to be capable of sinning. If you suffered from a cough, fever, or any other ailment, you went to see a physician who might treat you by removing some of your blood. This treatment was called bloodletting, or the practice of withdrawing blood to cure illness. This procedure was recommended by the most respected medical authorities and performed in private homes, barbershops, clinics, and even prisons. The reasoning behind bloodletting stemmed from the ancient Greek theory of bodily humors, which suggested that the body consisted of 4 humors, or fluids: black and yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. An imbalance of these humors caused illness, so removing some blood restored the proper balance. The idea persisted in Europe until the mid-19th century, leading many doctors to overlook actual cures. Many famous people died because of this practice, including King Charles II of England and George Washington, so make sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos. Also, stick around until the end to learn about our special offer just for viewers of this channel. Fact number 1. In the Middle Ages, your doctor might literally drain your blood. Number 2. There were no witch hunts in the Middle Ages. Hollywood often depicts the medieval period as a time of rampant witchcraft and witch hunts. The Catholic Church is commonly portrayed as the main perpetrator of these hunts, persecuting innocent women accused of consorting with the devil. In reality, however, the peak of witch hunting did not occur until the late medieval and early modern periods, primarily in Protestant areas. During this time, the theological focus on individual personal relationships with Satan increased fears of witchcraft. The Malleus Maleficarum, a book on witch detection published in 1486, is considered a foundational text of the witch craze. This manual was written during the Reformation and the Renaissance, not the Middle Ages. Therefore, the image of the Catholic Church as the embodiment of medieval witch hunts is largely a myth created by later Protestant propaganda, aiming to demonize their Catholic rivals. Number 3. Animals could be prosecuted in court. No. 4. Medieval people bathed regularly. Contrary to popular belief, medieval Europeans were not dirty, unwashed people. In fact, they bathed frequently. Number 5. Executions were public spectacles. The phrase dead man walking originates from the medieval period when executions were not somber legal proceedings, but major social spectacles. Number 6. The Catholic Church sold salvation. Number 7. Medieval people believed comets foretold disaster. A bright streak suddenly appears across the night sky, leaving a trail of sparkling light. Number 8. Trial by combat was accepted. Number 9. Medieval people were not monsters. It's easy to view medieval people through a modern lens, considering their practices barbaric and incomprehensible. The Middle Ages were not a time of universal darkness and ignorance as often depicted. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video.